Your opinion counts. 1-866-594-HOPE. That's 1-866-594-4673.
Oh boy!
Why
So
pay
have we
more for prescription?
been able to
Stop
get him yet?
overpaying.
Nope.
Start saving
Let me
with
try
SingleCare.
and reach
It's
my
easy.
rum.
Find your prescription on singlecare.com. Show the coupon at the pharmacy and start saving. SingleCare works at pharmacies nationwide and is completely free to use, whether you have insurance or not.
Oh
So
shoot!
the next time you fill a prescription, check
Keep up
SingleCare
alive.
to make sure you're getting the best price.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to talk about what you were saying about the quote unquote
Hi everyone,
roundup
it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the
Hey,
orange
what's your
sweater, and
and other
this is
things.
your wake-up call. If you're
Dale
paying too
from
much for
Daytona
wireless
Beach,
service,
Florida.
you don't have to keep
All right,
having
hold on,
that
Dale.
nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same
Thank you.
fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code SECONDFREE by January 26th. So why keep spending more than you have to?
All right, well, we'll try and
Seriously,
reach
wake
him.
up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See
So
website
you
for
have
additional
Dale.
details.
that
Of
wants to
course,
make a comment.
heartwarming yet informative.
Dale
Okay.
from Daytona Beach.
All right. Okay. We'll just keep trying the congressman. Boy, he was moving yesterday. I should have. Oops. Okay. All right. There we go. Y'all, I'm having to wear all this stuff this morning. It is cold in here. Jeremy's warm though. Hey, Jeremy, say hello to everybody. Peek around there. What's this, Jeremy? Yeah. Did I get you yet?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Oh boy. Hey everybody. Hey Barbara Jean, sending you Sunday greetings. I am going to be recording this afternoon, I think at 4 and 5, 3 and 4 in Central Time. We're going to be talking about the TikTok ban. We're also going to talk about the mass deportations and maybe the People's March. So it might be three different shows today. But the TikTok ban, we've got to look at that because many people have said that the whole point has been to ban pro-Palestinian content. So there's that. But there's a whole lot to this. A whole lot.
Do you want me to get Attorney Jones and Reynolds up?
Yeah, let's see. But I was gonna see if I could get the congressman up again. See if I can try.
I'm calling again.
Okay. Whew. Is this water like for us or something?
No, it was already in here.
Okay. Okay, you can try that. If it looks like I'm wearing a blanket, it's because I am. I don't know why this date is so wrong, Thalia. Is it Thalia or Thalia? Please correct me because I want to say your name properly. This is like I wonder if I could edit. No. Let me leave it. Thalia, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm going to leave it alone for now. Because it shouldn't be the Santita Jackson show anyway. So, where are my headphones? Where did I put them?
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging.
Okay. Who am I speaking to from Daytona?
Dale.
Dale. Okay.
Has anybody here seen my old friend Abraham? Can you tell me where he's gone. Oh, he freed a lot of people, but it seems a good die young. Yeah, I just looked around and he was
Mm. Wow. Abraham, Martin, and John. You all remember that when that was so popular back in the day? Well, I don't even know how people got through the 60s. You lost Medgar Evers. You lost Malcolm X. You lost John Kennedy. You lost Martin Luther King. You lost Robert Kennedy. You lost Patrice Lumumba. I mean, you just lost. I mean, it just. And then, to wrap up the year, to wrap up the decade, Fred Hampton. I mean, just the hits kept on coming with these great revolutionaries. I want to hear what your thoughts are. Please call me at 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673, and let us know what you think of what's going to happen with the incoming Trump administration. What do you think about the mass deportations? Will they work? What will the impact be? Hey, Carol Soskin, my sister from another mister, and Miss Thalia Cooks, sending you much love. Barbara Jean, sending you all so much love. Like and share, everybody. Like and share as you join Jeremy and I this early Sunday morning, the day before the inauguration. It's so cold in Washington that they're going to have to move it inside for the first time since the second Reagan inauguration in January of 85. Wow. So will that be a harbinger of things to come? And then we've got the ceasefire. So what do you make of that? Do you expect it to hold? Certainly ceasefire is a goal, but is not the goal. And as we're looking at this, really it's a prisoner swap. Many of the Palestinians are on administrative hold, which means they have not been charged, although they have been imprisoned. So they're hostages too. And so we're going to see a swap of these hostages. And so we're praying for all the families, but we're praying for justice and peace. Otherwise, you just have quiet before yet another storm. So call us at 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673. Want to know what your thoughts are this morning. And we've got Dale from Florida. Dale, how you doing? Dale? Hi, how are you? Ooh. And that's above zero. Okay, good. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Good morning, Representative Reynolds. This is Keep Up Alive. Going on Lock You In with Santita.
Mm.
Back then, we had no idea what it was like in the South. We saw it from the northern perspective, but we seeing what was happening changed hearts and minds immediately. And when I moved to Florida, in 1969 was the very first year that they desegregated the schools. And that's hard to believe that 1969 was the first year that they desegregated the schools. And before school even started, our family just coming from up north, we got phone calls that we should boycott, blah, 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 the school. And my mother very kindly and gently said, my children will be in school. And I just thank God for Dr. King and his ministry. And on the other end of it, when you're talking about President-elect Trump, I know that President-elect Trump did more for the African American community as far as the historically black colleges, gave them more money than anyone ever had before. The Criminal Reform Act, which helped an enormous amount of people. He also the inner city zones that he implemented that were so helpful to folks. And who in the world could be against rounding up violent criminals that shouldn't be here at all? I hear people say, well, the Latino, and I teach Spanish, the Latino community, they commit less crimes than the rest of the community. Okay, but if they're illegal and there's one that is murdering, that's one too many because they shouldn't be here at all.
But first of all, I appreciate your calling today, and more than that, I mean, and equally as important, I appreciate your listening, because it means so much, and the fact that you would call in and you'd be willing to engage. Thank you, sir. We really appreciate that. But I tell you, one of the challenges that you have with President Trump and everything that you said about him, excuse me, is true. But I lived in New York in 1989 when these 5 boys, they were boys who were, they were arrested for raping a woman, and everyone knew on the ground that they actually did not rape her. It was I can tell because living in New York at that time, he poured gasoline on a fire. In New York, you have to have the context. Reverend Jackson had just won the New York primary just a few months before, and we were on our way to getting the first black mayor, which was huge. And so you had a tension in New York because it was a hard-fought campaign. And when he called for the death penalty for these children, it was devastating because he was so popular in New York and he was like a mythic figure. Then when people started digging into his background and saw the discriminatory policies that he and his father had employed against black people who applied to live in their buildings, that was problematic. And so, but then well, no. What I'm saying is, and I appreciate that because people evolve, right? And I appreciate that. So, for our portion on this show, with our policy disagreements with Project 2025, which is going to be devastating, not just to people of color. It'll hit us first, but it's going to hit everybody eventually. I think we have to remain vigilant because, and I think we have to come together and really help to really try to understand each other's perspectives, because he does have a record that is checkered, and that is problematic. And where he deserves credit, he deserves it, and we.
Our present president, look at all the checkered past he has with race.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and I did. Well, no, I would say this. I think no, I think we do, but I think that with Reverend Sharpton, his history has been to amplify and to show, shine a lens, to shine a light on this pain. And well, no,
I think the lady's name was Braun,
uh,
where
to,
he incited people to burn down he didn't physically say it, but he incited the crowd to
Tawana Brawley. Well, I don't think that he was okay. Well, let me say this. I I do, but sir, what we have to do is also be honest. Because what happened with the Tawana Brawley case, there's been such a history of abuse of black women. Black women in this in our American experience, and quite frankly in the slavery experience, were routinely raped by white men, which is why that case and they were generally young girls. I mean, you can think of Sally Hemings and Thomas Jefferson. So when you look at that history, that story was it was very painful, and it really it was a trigger, particularly for black people, because it was something that was in our history, in our collective history. So, but I will say this to you: I thank you for calling, and I thank you, and I promise you that we will listen to you, and I want us to listen to each other. And I'm so glad that you listened to the show because I'm sure you've heard some things that make you go, oh, that might be cringeworthy, but you have stayed with us. Well, you didn't have to do it, and we appreciate that.
because people
Hmm.
don't listen to each other, and people think that if your opinion is different than mine, then you're the enemy.
Hmm.
And you're not the enemy. We're all God's children. Well, believers are God's children, and I believe you all are.
We
And
are.
so if we don't listen to each other, then everybody's going to be on edge, and everybody's going to result to violence.
That's right. And have an open heart to one another, and really, and have a real, and you're a teacher, and have a real understanding and teaching of the history. Because I think that's the thing. Because we don't
Good
want
morning,
to
Chris.
share
It's
the
People
history,
Alive. Hold on.
that becomes the problem. Wouldn't you agree?
Happy New Year.
Yeah. It, hmm It all. Well, we've got to make it. We've got to make America on, in fact, what it is on paper, because it's provided a lot of opportunities for a lot of people and a lot of pain for many others. And what we want to do is level the playing field so that everybody can enjoy the bounty that is here, because everybody has not. The first time that a bomb was dropped in the United States was dropped on Black Americans by white Americans in U.S. military planes. That's part of the history. When you look at the genociding and the removal of indigenous people, that's the history. All of those things are the history. And the Statue of Liberty, though, that was a gift from the French. It's a black woman standing in New York's harbor. What? Because they said you ended slavery and that should be applauded. So we have to look at the totality. Would you not agree? Okay. Mhm.
Whenever there's a natural disaster anywhere in the world, what country steps up more than any other country? And it's always America.
It is.
And there,
Mhm. Well, mhm. And we should not be the greatest purveyor of violence in the world, as Dr. King said, because it was true then, it's true today, and we've got to stop that. But I'm sending you so much love today, and thank you so much. May God bless you on this Martin Luther King Day weekend. Back with more of thank you so much. Thank you. More of Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I'm Santita Jackson. Back in a few minutes.
Your opinion counts. 1-866-594-HOPE.
Oh, that's such a beautiful song. I have to get that one.
1-866-594-4673.
Okay.
Do you want
You
to
said
say
the
hi
call
to
the caller the
see,
caller's voice cuts in and out, and they cannot hear. What's that? Okay. Who do I need to say hello to?
Representative Reynolds and Attorney Darrell Jones?
Oh, okay. Representative Reynolds.
Hello, Santita. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that conversation. I enjoyed the way you handled it. It was a great dialogue.
Oh, you are so sweet. I should have pulled you on.
You handled it. You gave them a history lesson.
Well, you know what you want to do, and hey, Daryl, how you doing, hon? You know what you want to pull people in, right?
Yes.
And the fact that he listens, and I'm sure there's things with which he does not agree, but he's still here, and you have to be sensitive to that. And I try to be, and I appreciate the fact that he's here, and he doesn't have to be. I appreciate that.
Well, I thought you handled that with class, and grace. You really did.
Well,
you didn't beat him up. You kindly educated him, and he was receptive. He wasn't like, "Oh, you're some liberal bashing." I mean, it was a great conversation.
Well, thank you. Well, look, I lived in New York with Central Park 5, and interestingly enough, they were brought to the station across the street from my apartment, just off. Oh yeah, because I lived right off Central Park West, on 82nd between Columbus and between Columbus and Amsterdam. And so, you saw that I was on my way to dinner and I saw all of this activity across the street. And I was like, what is going on? What? Well, it turns out it was those boys. And you know how it is in the Black community. There's already a narrative because we've all been in the system, or we know somebody's been in the system.
Yep.
And the word was early on that the DNA material that was found on this woman was not from any of those children. But she did have a Black boyfriend. That's whose DNA they found on her.
You're listening to Keep Hope Alive.
Oh, it was horrible what they did to her. It was horrible what they did. But here we're coming up now. You all got a lot to say, so come on and say it.
Caller, Chris from Oak Park.
Chris from Oak Park, okay.
You need some love and care. Ain't nothing going right. Close your eyes and meditate on him. Soon he will be there. God can brighten up. He can brighten up your darkest hour.
Wow, the great Aretha Franklin. Whew. Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I'm Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today as we commemorate the birthday of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Hey, everybody, keep up alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today. Got a little emotional thinking about Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. He was only 39 when he was killed, left his wife and 4 little children, Yolanda and Martin and Bernice and Dexter. Dexter made his transition just a year ago. Yolanda made her transition more than a decade ago. That family paid such a high price. And we thank God for Martin III and Reverend Dr. Bernice King, who survived. Mrs. King, who held the dream and that beacon aloft for so many years beyond her husband's death. And so, what do we make of today? What do we make of today, everybody? What do we make of today? I mean, as only God would have it. The day that we inaugurate our president is also the day that we commemorate the birth of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, January 20th. Wow. And now we're bringing in the 45th president, who now will be the 47th president, President Donald J. Trump. Now we have a ceasefire in the Middle East. But is that enough? I'm with you. It's not enough. That's just part of what we need. We need peace there. We need peace there. So what do you think about that? What do you think about the mass deportations that are slated to begin on Tuesday, the day after? And do you think they're only going to go after the criminals? No. And really, when you look at a visa overstay, one of the most famous overstayers of his visa, aside from Canadians, Elon Musk. He overstayed his visa. If you want anchor babies, well, Vivek Ramaswamy's parents, neither of them were citizens when he was born. And our own First Lady is a dual citizen. Did you know that, Jeremy? Yeah. She and her son. Yeah, she and her son are dual citizens of Slovenia and the United States. And she wasn't, and Ivanka Trump was not a citizen when she had her first 3 children. Eric, Ivanka, and Donald Jr. So what do you think?
Parents citizens?
Yeah, well, Melania Trump's parents became citizens through chain immigration. So they got a leg up, more than a leg up. And, so here we go.
Same thing Trump is trying to get rid of.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Anchor babies. I saw online last night, the question was, were his children anchor babies? Well, technically no, because their father was a citizen. But, that is the challenge that face many people. They have a parent who's a citizen and a parent who is not, and they're being thrown out. So we got to talk about this today. Attorney Daryl Jones, chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition, and someone who's down there at the border, Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds. Before we go to Chris from Oak Park, Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, this is something that you are seeing up close and personal. Let's start with Tuesday, because the mass deportations are supposed to begin then. What do you make of that? What's that going to look like?
Good morning. It's great to be on, and happy MLK Day and weekend. We have to keep the legacy and the dream alive. And I want to say, what great irony that Donald J. Trump will be sworn in on MLK's birthday. A man who was about peace and love for everyone, that really transcended race. And we have someone who's been sworn in that is really the antithesis of that in many aspects. But to your question on what's ahead with the mass deportations, I can tell you in Texas, there are a lot of immigrants, migrants, Hispanics that are very, very, very concerned and petrified for their loved ones. And you made a statement that I think is very profound and true, that it's not just going to be the criminals that are going to be deported. It's going to be people who are here that have been contributing to society, that have been making everything for their families, that they're going to be swept up in this as well. They're going to be targeted as well. and there's not going to be a whole lot of distinction and distance between some hardened criminal and people who are here that are productive people living their lives and raising their families. So there are a lot of people who are going to be caught up in this whole massive deportation, and they are selectively choosing the people of Mexican American hue. And you're right about they're okay with Elon Musk and Melania Trump because there's a great hypocrisy when it comes to these deportations and the image of illegal immigrants. The image is the darker skinned ones. Those are the ones that we got to get rid of. And I think that if we were just calling balls and strikes and we were just getting rid of people who were just criminals, and that we were doing it on an equal level playing field, I would be okay with it, Santita, because I want people here. I want to get rid of people who are causing crimes. But the way that they're doing it, I think is wrong. It's discriminatory. It's very selective on the brown folks. And I want our Black brothers and sisters to remember this, is that we wanted people to be there for us when we were enslaved and we were treated inhumanely. We wanted people of different races. So we can't say that that's not my problem. We can't turn a blind eye because, well, who's going to be next? Next is going to be someone else of a darker hue from an African country. So I'm very empathetic to the plight of my Latin brothers and sisters. And I think that we should all make sure that this is done in decency and in order and not inhumanely, and that these are human beings and they're not animals, and they should be treated with such. So that's why I'm concerned, is that they're going to selectively do this, and it's only for people with a darker hue. And I think that is the opposite message that Dr. King would. I think if Dr. King was allowed today, he would be speaking out. He would be speaking truth to power, and he would be saying that everyone should be treated the same, regardless of their hue.
But as you can see, we don't do that. I mean, we do not at all. I mean, and let me bring you in, Attorney Darrell Jones. I mean, we have a first lady who is, a dual citizen, and so is her son. And we have the first set of the Trump children were born to a mother who was not an American, citizen yet. She didn't become an American citizen until 7 years after her first child was born. Nothing wrong with that, but it just seems to me that we're functioning by different sets of rules here, right?
Good morning, Representative Riddle. You're absolutely right. And, I would start by saying that, when you're dealing with racism, you're not going to find a logical analysis that can be applied, because what you're seeing employed here is just blatant racism, right? I mean, the whole white nationality, the whole white movement that they have going on right now, white Christian movement, however they want to call it, white evangelical, whatever they want to call it, white nationalism. It's not about really enforcing immigration laws, because think about this for a second. I have not heard any conversation that's gone into the policy piece on what the government will do in terms of reforming the immigration laws so that we can understand what needs to happen to make path forward a real result policy piece in dealing with what they're proposing. So, what you end up dealing with now is what we're hearing come from Representative Reynolds, that they're going to do the selective enforcement of who to go after, whose homes to go into, and who to deport. The scarier part to me, one of the scarier parts to me, Santita, is this. I hold even closer Project 2025 now in reading it, because in Project 2025, we get the blueprint for what they're doing, because what we see them doing through that, when we're dealing just with the abortion issue, by example, is that they want to have the federal prosecutors go after the local prosecutors that are in states that will not enforce the abortion restrictions. Similarly, what we're going to see is this Department of Justice weaponized to go after these sanctioned city elected officials that refuse and are sanctuaries, right, for the illegal immigrants or undocumented citizens or undocumented folks, immigration that are here. You're going to see that happening. I predict as well, Cynthia, because this is just the tip of the iceberg with what is coming up through Tuesday when the raids begin. You're also going to see an administration that's going to employ the bounties like they did in Texas. Remember, they're giving bounties to people that were turning in women that were getting abortions that were not in alignment with the state law. You're going to see that similar type of bounty start to apply for people that will be turning in people that are here that are undocumented. You're going to see that same type of atmosphere that's going to be created. This is the concern that I have with what's happening, and the just the nastiness and the divisiveness that it's all going to create.
But it seems like we've been here for, this spirit has never left America. This is very American. Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds. This is not new, right? I mean, we've always othered people, Black people, brown people, non-white people. That's what we do. You're told, you can be quickly told to go back to Africa. No one ever tells someone to go back to France. No one ever tells someone to go back to England or Germany. No one does that in the United States. But you're told to go back to Mexico, go back. Just go back. And indeed, who is it? Ashley King from Memphis says the Mexicans didn't cross the border crossed them. I mean, you're in a place called that many Mexican Americans call El Norte, right? I mean, it's they're like, wait a minute, this was Mexico at some time, at one point. Okay, I know it's not anymore, but we're bringing these people in to do the work, and I think that we forget that we were brought here. Black people were brought here to do the work, and then once the work was done, they did not want us to have citizenship. That was an amendment. It was a real fight. Ending the Civil War was one thing. Getting us citizenship was a whole different kettle of fish. What say you, State Representative Ron Reynolds?
No, Santita, absolutely. I mean, when you think about I wanted to just say this because it was on the tip of my tongue. I think that one of the big problems, and I want to say I agree with everything that Daryl was talking about. I mean, the bounty, that's real. And I think one of the things that from their eyes and some of their lens, the people who are the most racist, extremists who love to stereotype, long before Kendrick Lamar, they were saying that they're not like us in terms of people who are darker, people who are not European white skin. And so basically they demonize us. And so they feel justified in this selective enforcement of these immigration laws because they feel like they're not like us. They feel like darker people are savages. And people have been conditioned to believe it because of negative portrayal in the media of Mexicans killing people, right? Trump said Mexican cartels, they're evil. Black people, black men raping white women. This is all a part of the narrative where they feel justified in this selective enforcement. They don't feel like they're doing anything wrong. They feel like they're protecting society. And so this is the mindset of the people, and it's embedded in people's psyche because of the portrayal of black and browns within the media. White people are heroes. White people are the savior. They're trying to save from these savages that are invading our country, and they want to make America great again, right? So we see it in Texas. We see it in states that are southern, that have been led particularly by Republican governors. We see some of the most draconian laws, and Texas being a border state, I've seen the real venom and the real hatred of many of these migrants, and they don't mind them doing cheap labor because there are many jobs that wouldn't be done if it wasn't for them. But they don't mind to feed their base to go after them and make a target of them. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing them being played for pawns, political pawns for partisan purposes. And that's wrong.
Well, you know, they have us fighting each other instead of fighting the power. And that is really shameful. You know, Daryl, I've got about a minute before we go to break. And of course, every Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, you can hear Attorney Daryl Jones and Attorney Barbara Arnwine on their excellent radio show on WOL in DC. Are you surprised that President Trump will be sworn in on Monday and these raids are supposed to begin on Tuesday?
He promised that this is what was going to happen day one, right? This is part of day one. He's holding to the promise that he made to his base. I'm holding to the hope that the American people will see what's happening and will respond accordingly. It's going to be a very unsettling experience to see federal agents go into cities, sanctuary cities, to round up the immigrants that are there for deportation. It's going to be an unsettling experience, and it really is, unfortunately, the appetizer for what's about to come over the next 4 years.
Well, I tell you what, I heard Congressman Jonathan Jackson speak yesterday, and he inspired me. He said, many of us really felt down after the November election. Yes, we understood that. He said, but I came away reinvigorated, ready to fight. He said, and I will be at that inauguration because I want the president to look me in his eyes and know that he has someone who's going to fight him. Now, hold on. 40 years ago, the Trump of that time was Ronald Reagan. But there was a man who rose up and decided to take him on, and that was Reverend Jesse Jackson, and he made some history and changed America. We can do the same thing. We shouldn't be surprised by anything. This is America. This is how the oligarchy does its thing. They fight back. So now what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We got a lot of work before us. We've got a ceasefire that does not go far enough. We got to find out what's going on here. People in that part of the world need peace. They don't need expansion. They need peace. They need to be able to go home. Let's talk about that, everybody. Let's talk about education. Let's talk about food prices. Let's talk about the things that we need to work on and the America that we need to work toward building. Back with more of Keep Hope Alive in just a few minutes.
Coming up, we'll have closing thoughts.
Bernadette says it's very confusing. We export and import immigrants according to what you need. For some people, get rid of immigrants. Some get immigrants. I guess it depends upon what the corporations want. Absolutely. That's why we're here, Bernadette. And so instead of us fighting these people, we need to come together and deal with these corporations that want to continue to hire people for cheap. I mean, because that's always been the point. But they have us fighting each other, angry with these folks after we have pushed them out of Venezuela. Oh, let us be very clear. These folks didn't run away from home. They've been pushed out of their home by us. It's awful. And we're walking around mad with them. I promise you, it doesn't make any. It's not helpful. It's not helpful. But here we are. So we act like this. All this started with Trump. All this racialized talk about these others. Everybody does it. And we have to stop it. Now I think Trump is going to get our attention, though. I tell you that. And good. Because we went to sleep starting in 2008. And then we thought everything was going to be okay if Kamala got in, as if she was not going to as if people were not going to fight her. You saw they fought her. They wouldn't even let her get her own message out during the campaign, Daryl, Ron. And you saw the YouGov poll that came out this week, right? It showed that definitively Gaza is what cost her the election.
I saw that. That was something we've been intimating, Santita, for some time.
We weren't intimating it, we were saying it. She was not allowed to switch tracks. Biden would not allow her to switch tracks. His people were running her campaign. Oh. So I mean, acting like, because if you don't think that he's upset, listen to everything he says. He is so angry about having been pushed off the ticket. He still thinks that he's the person who could have beat Trump. I'm like, really? You were underwater. Before the debate, people wanted him off the ticket. He ended up getting 14 million votes because nobody had a choice. They pushed everybody. They made it impossible for Cornell to come in. They pushed Bobby Kennedy out. Marianne Williamson didn't have a prayer. I mean, come on. So instead of bringing people in, they pushed people out. Robert Kennedy tries to call Kamala Harris. That's 600,000 votes plus that he got. Don't you think she could have done well with 600,000 votes? If they were placed in different places, she would have won the Electoral College.
That's right.
So whoever told her not to call him back, that was not smart. Yeah, I'm saying it. And I'll add more to it, y'all, before I take anything away. Ugh. Are you
that poll was very revealing.
Oh,
it was very telling.
Very telling. And now the reporting on the campaign is beginning to come out. And you can see it when they appear in public. They barely even speak to the woman.
30 seconds.
It's like, oh my gosh, what?
You have about a minute.
Okay. Well, hold on, everybody. Because you got mass deportation, but you got everything coming at you. Maybe this will wake us up, you guys. Maybe
that's what I'm saying.
So I want you to say it too. So we'll stay right there.
Another 10 seconds.
Okay. And we're out at 58, 26. Or is it 25?
26.
Okay.
You're live.
Hey, everybody. Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I'm Santita Jackson. Let's talk about the Trump presidency as we celebrate the birth of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Every president will be sworn in on his national holiday. Wow, look at God. So what would he say about the rampant militarism sponsored by our government that's destroying people in countries all over the world? What would he say about the rising racist acts against the most vulnerable in our society? What would he say about materialism, a society in which we celebrate celebrity and bury that which is substantive? Think about that. He said a society that did that and that spent more money. Oh, I got wound up. That spent more money on the military and all of these things. This thing-centered society would send us to hell. And that is where we're going, you guys. We have got to, and we can stop it. But we have to make a decision.
That clock is off too. So that clock.
That's what I'm trying to say. Because every time, I know I'm not crazy. That's why I said, is it 25? Is it 20? What?
No, like my clock says 59:03 now.
Okay.
So it's 3 seconds behind.
Okay, just let me know, because I know there's a lag. I could never quite get what the lag is. Okay. But you all keep talking, because, we're on all of these different platforms at the same time. Okay, Renee, you said there are teachers and other young people who are fearful that they may be deported even though they've been here most of their lives. Yeah, well, being here most of your life, if you don't have connections, clearly doesn't mean anything. Maybe you need to marry Trump. That worked. Or somebody else. I mean, Elon Musk overstayed his visa, kept overstaying it.
Good morning and welcome to Keep Hope Alive.
Unbelievable.
With Reverend Jesse Jackson. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily the views of this station, but
Yeah, so it's the hypocrisy for me. You know, I just can't get along with that, whether it's from the left or from the right. I mean, let's call balls and strikes.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But no, but if you don't, whatever you want to say when we come back on, well, let me just come on in.
Martin Luther King. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted. Every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed in all flesh.
John Nichols.
John Nichols, Keep Hope Alive, and I'm lucky to center.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. This will be the day when all of God's children be able to sing with new meaning. My country tears to thee. Sweet land of liberty of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died. Land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside. Let freedom reign. If America is to be a great nation, this must become true. That you have a world party on the day you give me. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And would he be happy on this birthday? He'd be working on this birthday. It has become popular to say that his birthday is a call to service. It really is a call to action. He was a man of action. He was a minister. So he was already a servant. But he went further. He was a man of action, everybody. And as Reverend Jesse Jackson, who worked for him, my father didn't come from means. He didn't come from money. He left a full scholarship at the University of Chicago to go work for this man just before he was securing his master's in divinity. But Dr. King said, I see something in you, and I see a ministry that is going to be magnificent, and you're going to help a lot of people, and I can teach you more about how to do it than you can learn in that seminary. You need to come and work for me. My father was hesitant. He said, wait a minute, you have a PhD. All these people around here have PhDs and advanced degrees. I'm about to get mine. You mean to tell me I need to leave? I'm about to graduate? He said, yeah, come and work for me. And oh my goodness. So grateful that he did. It was the last 3 years of his life. But what about who we are right now? I mean, it's not just Trump. We've been on a really, really bad track for some time, which is why Dr. King preached with such fervor. He talked to us about our materialism, about our racism, about our militarism. He talked about that. He said, if you continue on this path, you will go to spiritual death. When you continue to spend this money, when your military budget outweighs education and health and housing, that's no way to live. And this is where we are. This is where we are. We're being gouged to death. People cannot afford eggs. So think about that. Think about it. So what are we going to do? What are the Democrats going to do? What are the Republicans going to do? Now it's their turn. What are they going to do? And what are you going to do? You can't just let these people sit in office. You got to do the work. Don't be down now. Get up and get ready to fight. All right. Back with more of Keep Hope Alive in just a few minutes. Let's talk about what the plan is and what it is that we see. What's going to happen on Tuesday with these mass deportations? What's going to happen with the TikTok ban? Because underneath it all is censorship. That's right. A lot of stories that had been hidden were getting out because of TikTok. Many people say that the Middle East crisis got its first daylight on TikTok. And people were able to say all kinds of things on TikTok. And interestingly enough, it is not just a Chinese-controlled company. The Carlyle Group, which is an American company that President George H.W. Bush helped to found, they're majority stakeholders in TikTok. Think about that, everybody. Huh. And think about these mass deportations. What will our future first lady, Melania Trump, say? She is a dual citizen. What will President Trump's first three children say? When they were born, their mother was not a citizen. Think about that. Think about it. Let's talk about it here on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. And please, we're excited that we're going to see you at the MLK breakfast tomorrow at Soldier Field. It's going to be a fantastic, fantastic event. It's one of the biggest in the country, and we've sent thousands of young people to college based upon this breakfast and other activities that the Push for Excellence program has. So we are excited that we will be with you tomorrow, and we want you to please continue to support Rainbow Push and Operation Push, where it's the Saturday morning forum every Saturday from 10 to 11. You don't want to miss it. Get there a little early. Get a little bit of breakfast. And let's talk. And let's get together, everybody. And let's resolve these problems. And let's do it together. Back with more of Keep Hope Alive in just a few minutes.
Your opinion counts. 1-866.
I know some people are talking about.
I'm sorry, hon. What'd you say?
Some people have downloaded the Chinese version of TikTok.
The what?
The Chinese version of TikTok.
Red Dot?
Yeah.
Have they changed it so you can read it?
That I don't know. I just heard
because they have Lemon 8 and Red Dot. Because I think I got Red Dot. I got on that, but Lemon 8, Lemon the number 8, is their sister company.
I don't know.
What? Okay. Well, because I got on Red Dot, I couldn't figure it out. I was like, oh. Okay. Is it John?
This is John Nichols. How are you, dear?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy
King's Day, almost.
Absolutely. Well, his birthday was on the 15th, and we,
I know,
of course, are coming to all of this on his birthday. Only the Lord would have us swear in the president on his birthday. Yep. But we're with Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds. You know, he's head of the Black Legislative Caucus there. And of course.
Oh, I know Ron well, yes.
Okay, and Attorney Darrell Jones.
Oh, what a good bunch. Perfect bunch. And, well, it's just quite, we've got just about everything going on. How cold is it down there in Chicago?
9 degrees.
Yeah.
Supposed to get down to 0 degrees tonight, negative, or 2 degrees tomorrow.
2 degrees tomorrow. It's going to be above 0.
That's a high.
Well,
that's
here
high.
It's -6. It's -6 right now.
God bless you. I'm wearing a blanket.
I know it's maybe 12 degrees tomorrow.
You are.
It'll be 12 degrees tomorrow.
The lowest -5.
The low is -5. The low is -5. The low
Tuesday is 3 degrees.
All right.
2 is 3 degrees. Tuesday. Okay, lovely.
It's going to get really cold on Tuesday.
Oh gosh.
And I know we know about it. We talk about it, but boy, on these days, I sure think about the people that are unhoused.
Oh my gosh. Well, wait a minute, John.
Yeah.
What about people who are in their homes but they have no heat?
Have no heat. It's just one thing on top of another. And in the richest country in the world, that's the one thing we ought to be able to handle.
Oh, we could, but these people are greedy.
And it is so painful to imagine. We have a guy who lives in our neighborhood who's unhoused, but he manages his life pretty well. He gets in and out of places. And I saw him last night. We were talking, and he was on his way to a place. But boy, I was just thinking, if you're in a situation where you don't have housing or you don't have heat, in this part of the world where it's getting below Zero. That's, I don't know. My heart's just, I feel it. I feel it this time of year for folks who are in those circumstances. And I know, by the way, that we can give a little bit if we got the capacity to all sorts of great programs that seek to help these people. A lot of them church-based.
Look, if they could cut all these checks for Ukraine, every 5 minutes.
Oh, come on.
Give me a break.
If we can cut taxes for billionaires.
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, most of us don't even know where Ukraine is. And most people don't want to give money to a country that is killing all these people. That's what's happening with Israel. It's like, come on. Enough already.
Let us just pray today, though, that this ceasefire holds.
Well,
and that we can start to get that aid into Palestine. People will live or die in the next few days based on whether the aid arrives.
But they've been shooting them and killing them anyway.
Oh, believe me, I know
You know
right,
that.
I'm just saying now is the critical moment because we can, if this ceasefire holds at all,
we
can get a lot of aid.
Hold on, we're coming in.
Okay.
Hold on one moment. That's right. Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I'm ready to fight, everybody. November, yes, there were profound disappointments. No question about that. I'm Santita Jackson. This is Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Up here with my wingman, Jeremy Geiger. Yeah, November was disappointing. It was painful. But now we've got to get to work, everybody. We were not going to skate into ease had Kamala Harris won. She had a fight on her hands. We now see she had a fight within the campaign. Think about that. So just think about it. We've got the TikTok ban that's going to undercut many businesses, many small businesses that were really beginning to make a lot of money. What about these mass deportations? I mean, there's just so much. And how will Americans react to all of this, everybody? What about the ceasefire? Will it hold? Before I come to you, John Nichols, national correspondent for the Nation magazine, of course, best-selling author. It's okay. It's okay to be angry about capitalism, you and Senator Bernie Sanders. But before I get to you, Texas State Senator Ron Reynolds was making a point. And of course, you're head of the Black Legislative Caucus. And Texas, by the way, is the state that has the most African Americans of any state in the union. Wow. What were you saying, Ron Reynolds, Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, before we came back while we were on break?
And I was talking about all the hypocrisy, but one of the things I wanted to say really quickly before I hear from one of my favorite people out there is John Nichols, is that if Dr. King were alive today, I think that he would be talking about a lot of the economic inequality that exists. The fact that, blacks and browns and women, shouldn't be having to fight for equal pay for equal work. That there should be so many disparities when it comes to unemployment. And now we're going to see that exacerbated because we've seen a rollback with this DEI even before it's implemented from Project 2025, fully implemented. We've seen Meta, Walmart, and others. Dr. King will be speaking out about that. And he would be likely calling for an economic boycott of these corporations until they did right by the people that help support them and make them rich. It is black and brown people and many people who shop at these companies and make them give them the wealth that they have. So Dr. King, if he was alive today, I think he will be doing that. And it reminded me it's incumbent upon all of us to talk not just about voting rights and women's reproductive rights, but economics. That's what King, when he was killed, was arguing for the sanitation workers in Memphis. So I thought about that when I was listening to his speech. It just made me remember when he was unfortunately killed in Memphis at 39, that he was fighting for sanitation workers and pay parity and disparities that exist. So thank you, Santita, for allowing me to get that off of my conscience, because so many times we focus on voting rights, criminal justice reform, climate, but we don't talk about economics. And we know that there are so many disparities when it comes to income and home ownership because of redlining, because of lack of unemployment. And then there are people who don't have access to health care because they don't have a job and they don't have insurance, or they have a job that doesn't have insurance, and therefore they have adverse health outcomes. So we need to advocate for more resources and economics, and that is something we cannot take our foot off the gas on. And King would allow today, he would be helping lead that charge.
Amen. Indeed, that has been the thrust, one of the thrusts of Reverend Jackson's whole ministry, economic parity, because Dr. King said, and he was really pushed by Reverend Dr. Leon Sullivan out of Philadelphia. He said, okay, we have the right to eat at the Woolworth counter, but if you don't have the money, what's the point? You need a job. I need a job that pays you fairly. We got to do that. John Nichols, The Nation magazine. Boy, oh boy, you had the People's March yesterday. Thousands of people turned out in Washington. And but now on Tuesday, you're going to have these mass deportations. And you got the TikTok ban. So a lot of people are not able to get through. And there's a whole lot going on. What do you step back? Let me step back and give us your assessment of where we are right now.
Where we are is together, and that's a good thing. And I can't tell you what a pleasure it is to be on with Representative Reynolds. His words are so kind and also so wise, and you and other folks. And I'll just say, Daryl, look, I like starting with Reverend King there, because if we ask the question, if Reverend King was around, we have to first ask, would that be possible? And of course, the answer is yeah, it's possible. There are people 90 years old who are out, in the world doing great things. There's even people almost 90 sitting in the U.S. Senate. And so were it not for an assassin's bullet, Reverend King would be here, very possibly. And what would he be doing? What would he be saying? I mean, we never claimed to be able to get inside the man's mind because it was so brilliant, so amazing. But we know what he wrote. We know what he said. And what he always did was encourage us to find an intersection between the universal and the local. And what I mean by that is, in the same speech, he could speak in great detail about the affairs of the world, about new developments in Africa and Asia, about wars abroad that he thought should end, and that he could come right down to the local, standing with those sanitation workers in Memphis, standing with people getting ready to go down in Mississippi, getting ready to do a freedom march up to Washington, bring people up to Washington, D.C. in 1968 for a protest against poverty, exactly what Representative Reynolds is talking about there. So when we think about all this, what we recognize is that our duty in this time is simply to carry on. And it's hard. The only thing that's hard about this time, about carrying on, is that, as you just said, Santita, there are so many things to be conscious of, so many things that we have to work on. And I have to tell you, yesterday I was powerfully struck. These people's marches across America, they weren't small, they weren't disorganized, they were huge. Literally filling spaces where our great peace and civil rights marches are filled in the past. And so what we know is that while a lot of our pundits, while a lot of our political insiders are literally going on television or radio or wherever and saying, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know where to go, people just need to take a break, or they practice self-care. Well, I'm all for practicing self-care. I think people should take care of themselves. There's no question of that. They've got to keep strong. But at the end of the day, what we saw is a tremendous number of people yesterday who went out and said, oh, no, I'm ready. I'm ready to do what I need to do. And so then the simple thing I would say to you, Santita, is that at that point, you begin to triage. If you're in a hospital and you got a number of patients coming at the same time, you triage. You figure out who needs help most quickly and what kind of help do they need. Well, our job, and again, coming off what our favorite legislator from Texas had said,
is we do have to begin with those issues of economic disparity and the situations where people do not have the full protection of their local, state, and federal government, right? The people who are most vulnerable. And we have to figure out how to protect them. Some of that will be done in the courts. Some of that will be done in the states. And if I can focus on one critical thing here, it is that when we talk about everything that's going to happen in the next few weeks, few months, few years, it is absolutely essential that we have that Dr. King vision, right? We think about the universal, right? These big pictures. Talk about TikTok. Talk about, relations with China. Talk about relations with Ukraine. Talk about the Middle East. The possibility of a ceasefire, finally. And talk about all that. But we can never look away from the local. And it is at the local where we can actually protect a lot of people. Governors, mayors, legislators, city council members, they can do so much at this point. Doesn't mean they can do everything, but they can definitely create a balance there. And so, to my mind, as we go into this inaugural and all these other things, I'm going to be paying a tremendous amount of attention to what's going on in the state. And I'll be particularly paying attention, Santita, to what's going on in North Carolina, where they are trying, right-wingers, on the state Supreme Court are trying to steal a Supreme Court seat. A woman won that seat. She won it with a clear victory. They did a recount. They did everything. And now they're trying to disqualify 60,000 voters in North Carolina after the election. A disproportionate number of them Black, a disproportionate number of them young. And they're trying to do it so that they can flip the results of an election that the Republicans lost. That's the kind of thing we have to pay attention to, because if you let them steal Supreme Court seats, if you let them steal elections, whatever they do, you're going to end up in a situation where even in the states, we can't provide that counterbalance. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the universal and I'm looking at the local.
We're talking with John Nichols of The Nation magazine, about what is next. What is next? Well, we now are also looking at new leadership in the Democratic Party. But I'm wondering, as they look at this new leadership, if they have done an adequate post-mortem. The post-mortem that I read from Roots Action from 2016, ding, 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 it looked like it was a post-mortem for 2024. Now you have the YouGov poll that shows that Gaza cost Kamala Harris, the vice president, the election. And so what is the way forward?
Important one, because, when a few years ago, and I wrote a book titled The Fight for the Soul of the Democratic Party. And it's a story about how so often, including in your father's campaigns, the Democratic Party establishment kind of pushed back against those who were trying to bring the party and the country into the future, right? Who were trying to actually address fundamental issues like what we're talking about today. And the weird part was that book started as an examination of the Republican Party. I was going to write a book about how the Republican Party became so right-wing, so extreme, so troublesome. And what I realized was the answer to the question wasn't looking at the Republican Party. It was looking at the Democratic Party that failed in so many instances to stand strong that it created a space for extreme right-wingers and for extremists on the Republican side. And I would say that's still true about the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party today is in a period of crisis because they lost a lot of elections. That's true. But the deeper crisis, the more fundamental crisis, is that they're in a period of kind of whipsawing back and forth. Remember, Obama was president, then it was Trump, then it was Biden, now it's Trump. We had a Republican Congress, then we had a Democratic Congress, then a Republican Congress, then a Democrat. We're whipsawing back and forth. The reason for that is that neither party is getting to the fundamental core issues, and neither party's doing what it needs to do. Now, I don't expect the Republicans to do that, but I do expect them to be very good at exploiting the situation. The fundamental job is with the Democrats. And what the Democrats have to recognize, and you mentioned Gaza, the Democrats cannot be cynical about these things. They cannot assume that most Americans don't pay attention to TikTok or Twitter or
other social media platforms and don't know what's going on. They do know what's going on. They know that tens of thousands of people died unnecessarily in Gaza, disproportionately women and children, and that affected their votes. It affected how they approached the election. Democrats had to know that, but they didn't act on it. Similarly, on these economic issues that our legislator, our friend Ron Reynolds is talking about, this is such a critical thing. When people are hurting, you don't tell them that they don't know how good they have it. And too often Democrats do that. They say, oh, we did this for you, or we did that for you. Vote for us. No. What they have to say is, give us power, enough power to actually govern. And here are the things that we will do now. Don't keep going back 50 years, 100 years, always going back to FDR. He was great, but we've got to be talking about something going forward. And I think that when you talk about an autopsy or a sort of a debrief on the 2024 election, this is what I say. It's appropriate to do it to get the record. But understand, we all know where the problems were. And where the problems were was that they took tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars from very, very wealthy people to buy television ads that were of little consequence and to pay for running around the country appearing with Mark Cuban, the billionaire, or Liz Cheney, the former Republican member of Congress. They sent so many wrong messages when they should have been out there saying that in the United States of America, when there are people who are unhoused, we figure out how to house them. When there are people who are hungry, we figure out how to feed them. When there are people who are vulnerable, we figure out how to lift them up and take care of them. That fundamental moral message, I learned from the Reverend Jesse Jackson. I learned it in 1983 and 1984. I learned it more deeply in 1988. It is still the right message for the Democratic Party. And I just wish that some of these people that are running for chair, and by the way, some of them are pretty good folks, but I wish a few of them would talk a little more about the rainbow and about the fact that it's almost like the Wizard of Oz. We have always known what we need to do. We've always had the power. The problem is that we haven't had a party that recognized that at its leadership level.
We've been talking with John Nichols, who's on his way to church. John, I've got about a minute before we cut out of here. What is your thought as we look at the inauguration tomorrow? My brother Jonathan, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, said he will be there. He flew back to Washington yesterday. He said, because I want the president to look me in my eyes and know that he has someone who will fight him. I'm going to fight Project 2025. We're going to fight these mass deportations. We're going to fight. This is not the time to cower, John Nichols. This is the time to get up and go. John Nichols, 1 minute for you.
Jonathan is in Congress. I hope that in his last hours, Joe Biden will find it in his heart and his wisdom to pardon Jesse Jackson Jr. I hope that in the days and hours ahead that we will recognize how strong we are, and our strength is in the fact that you are on the radio right now doing the things that you are doing. You've got great guests to carry on. I'm headed to church, and I'll tell you, I am going to pray, as I always do, for humanity. I'm going to pray for peace, but I know as well as you do that prayers and actions is how things happen. And it is my sense that just listening to you today, just talking today with folks, I think we are ready to act. And I think we are ready to act on behalf of economic and social and racial justice, saving this planet, and providing a certainty that our future is one of diplomacy and peacemaking, not violence and war. And I love you. I love you so much.
I love you. I love you. Faith without works is dead, everybody. Let's get to work. The prayers of the righteous availeth much, but faith without works is dead. Let's get to work. In the name of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, he was a servant. A day of service, that's redundant, really. It's a day of action. Let's get to work. More of Keep Hope Alive in just a few minutes.
See my satisfaction keeps me on the run. I try to play my music, say my music's too loud. I try talking about it
your opinion?
You want to say bye to John Nichols?
Oh, well, let's see if we can get Dwight. If
You want
we
to say bye
can.
to John?
Huh?
Say bye to John.
Thanks, Bettina. Love you lots. I'm
I
off, but
love you.
thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, always, always. Are you going to be in Washington for the on February 1st?
February 1st, I'm not going to be there tomorrow, but I might. February 1st is not beyond the realm of possibilities.
Okay.
You know, I'm not in Washington that often. I tend to do most of my work out here in the country. So I haven't been, thinking today, just yesterday, I haven't been to an inaugural in a while. And don't let them start that out. But when you go out there on February 1st, that's more interesting.
Well, yeah, for the Democrats, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And when we watch this vote on whether on how we pick a new chair, are you going to go?
Yeah, I am.
Then I will look for you. I'll try. If I get out there, I will try to look for you.
Oh, absolutely. Let's do that.
All right, my friend.
Yeah.
Great love and solidarity.
Much love and many blessings to you and your family.
And to
Call
yours
has been
as well.
forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
I will. Thank you.
Okay. And Ron and Daryl, take care of yourselves. Be strong. Take care, Joe. Always a pleasure listening to you. Absolutely, Joe. See you soon. Thank you. I look forward to it. Be strong.
You got two callers. Sent
Okay, who do I have?
Fred and Chris from Oak Park.
I have Chris from Oak Park and who?
Fred from LA.
Fred from LA. Oh, okay. Let me get them both in. And then I'm going to come right back to you guys. Let them make their comments, okay? That's right. Renee said, I had many segments on the atrocities in Gaza, Democracy Now!, Sabby Sabs, Brianna, formerly of The Hill, and many other online outlets showed what was going on. I even watched the actual hearings. But, I tell you, really broke that story just nationwide and worldwide. It was TikTok. And many people feel that this is, in fact, Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL said that this is not a right and left fight, that this is a generational fight, and that they've been trying to buy TikTok for a long time so they can control it. So it's censorship, period. Whatever the issue is, something for you to think about. Hold on. Hey, everybody. Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson, the great Aretha Franklin. We are joined by Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds and, of course, Attorney Daryl Jones. You can catch him and Barbara Arnwine on their radio show every Tuesday on WOLDC, everybody. Just go to WOL online. You don't have to be in Washington to hear that great show. Go on and give them their support as they support you. He's on his way to Brunswick, Georgia. We're going to ask him about that because the Ahmaud Arbery case is not over. It's not done by a long shot. Very quickly, before we go to these callers, Daryl, what's going on in that case?
Beginning Tuesday, what's going to happen is this. We have long pushed for the prosecutor, Jacqueline Johnson, in the Arbery case to be prosecuted for her role in disallowing the police to make the arrest and push forward on the prosecution. Well, now Jacqueline Johnson has been indicted, and her trial will begin on Tuesday, January the 21st. So we're going to be going down there to be certain to raise the light so people can see what her role was and all that happened in that Arbery case, that people need to know the impact of what the elected prosecutor has in local elections and in protecting all the citizens of the county. So we're down there with the families, Santita, and we're going to be raising that issue and certainly standing and sitting with the family throughout the trial.
And we will be getting updates from you because that trial and that case is not closed, everybody. It's not closed. Let's go to Chris from Oak Park. Chris, thank you so much for holding. What's on your mind today?
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you.
Of course, acknowledge Dr. King. Send a love to your father and your family. And I do hope there's some resolve for Jesse Jr., on the outgoing Biden administration. What I see with the Trump administration, I'm hopeful, but I'm not very hopeful. I see with the billionaire class, we're moving into a kleptocracy, and I don't hear an agenda for the middle class and the poverty class. And my expectation is the wealth gap to increase. And when you have Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, whose net worth just increased 200 billion since during the election cycle, and now I really don't foresee much, for, like I said, the common folk. And with the agenda of Project 2025 and the rollbacks, I think it's going to be this president is going to be a lot of devastation on the country, especially to the Black community. That's how I see it.
Chris, I want to thank you for that. But, let's keep on fighting. Do you plan to watch the inauguration? Mm-hmm. Okay.
My health, my finances, and I'm going to stay in the fight. But the country is, anytime we can elect a felon, we're just, the decline of America. I'm hopeful, but I see a lot of things, glossed over, and how the courts allowed this person to send in meritless, frivolous claims to get delays on claims. And that Jack Smith report, if you haven't read it, please read it, because he would have got convicted and he wouldn't have been in the office. And the Supreme Court putting their thumb on the scale, and the judge in Florida giving him every pass possibly, and ruling that a special counsel is illegal when that's how Nixon's situation went and other situations in the last 200 some years. So every feasible, skirt of the law he was allowed to do.
Chris from Oak Park has spoken, sending you so much love, Chris. Take care of yourself and happy birthday, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Fred from Los Angeles, how you doing this morning? Happy New Year.
Palisade Fire the next time I called you, but I got to respond to this anchor baby thing with the illegal immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, you guys don't have enough of them. An anchor baby is a woman who crosses over the border where she can come in from China or Japan and has a baby here. That baby becomes an anchor baby and a U.S. citizen. And not unlike that of our California U.S. Senator, his name is Alex Padilla. Now, I don't know that she or his mother got welfare and all of that, but many of the other illegal immigrant women do that. It's not people that come here legally and have a baby. That's kind of legal. That's a quasi. But these women do that. Now, if I were going 80 miles an hour on the freeway this morning and I got cited, I'd have to answer to the law. You guys seem to think that these people that cross the border shouldn't answer to immigration law. Surely them violating immigration law is far worse than me going 80 miles an hour on the freeway, because I got to go before the bar. They need to go before the bar. Another thing, you guys seem to think it's putting Black against a Latino rather than you're saying that the problem with Black people is the white people. No, there's more racism between the Latinos. They don't waste no time letting you know they got the half white skin. I've told you that before. Now, I got a question for you guys. Why do you think Black Americans should have to compete with employment, housing, and in some cases education against these people?
Would anyone like to respond? Because we all can. Would you like to respond, Ron or Daryl? Well, the thing is, look, let me say this. Instead of fighting each other, I think we need to fight the power. The fact is, a lot of these, we don't get upset when Elon Musk overstays his H-1B visa, which he did do. We don't get upset when Vivek Ramaswamy has parents who are not citizens. He doesn't mention that. We don't get upset when, yes, while Donald Trump was a citizen, his wife, Ivanka, was not, when she had her first 3 children. And his wife was brought here. Our first lady, who's a dual citizen, is here on a genius visa. Don't understand how that works. And then her parents came in through chain migration. The point is, it seems that we have an issue with brown and black people who are brought here, who are forced here. The Venezuelans who are here have been pushed out of their country because we've been meddling there. These corporations have used our muscle and our influence to try and move Venezuelans out of Venezuela so we can take their oil, which is among the finest in the world. We need to talk about that. You got to talk about no, you talked. Now let me finish, because you said you wanted a response and I'm giving it to you. The fact is, you don't lose a third of your population because people want to are flocking to America for opportunity. They're being run out of their countries because of mischief. Now, what we need to do is stop meddling in their country, because we want Venezuela without Venezuelans. We want Libya without Libyans, because we want their oil too. We want all these places we want the indigenous people to be removed so that we can take their resources, and it's not going to work. The world is changing, Fred. You can't just take people's stuff from them. They don't owe you that. It is not our oil up underneath their feet. It's theirs. It's theirs. So now, if you want to talk about whether I don't think we should be competing. We should not be competing. But the thing is, NAFTA, which a Democrat brought in, but a Republican was trying to push it, but a Democrat finally pushed it in, because it's a bipartisan betrayal. Both parties stand for the oligarchs. That's what they do. And that's what they've done. Ross Perot said it. He said, when NAFTA comes, it'll be a giant sucking sound of jobs out of the country. He was neither Democrat nor Republican, and he was absolutely right. And here we are. Here we are. So no. And I've been to California, and I live in Chicago, and I understand the racism in the Hispanic community. I get it. But that does not excuse them being dehumanized, because suddenly they become brown when these people get the N-word treatment, and that's what they're dealing with. And they're going to have to go up in their politics too. I see Telemundo on Univision. You would not think that there were more black people taken to Latin America than were brought to the United States. It is blacker in South and Central America than it is in the United States. They have their own problems, but that does not mean that I should not stand up for them as they are being mistreated. I'm not going to be as sick as my oppressor. I'm not going to be as sick people are. So that's that. So you have your answer. Thank you. Would anyone else like to respond? Okay, we love you, and we thank you for always listening, even though sometimes we give you the cringe, Fred. So what are we looking at? Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds.
For that response, I couldn't have sounded any better. But I think that we're looking at some challenges ahead, and it's incumbent upon all of us to step up. And I'm reminded of a Dr. King quote where he said that the ultimate measure of a man, or I was insert a woman, is not where they stand during moments of comfort and convenience, but during times of challenge and controversy. And I think we can all agree that we're in those times of challenge and controversy, and there'll be more chaos and confusion ahead. But it's not a time for us to woe is me and pity party. It's a time for us to double down and pull up our bootstraps and to work towards the kind of reality that we want and the kind of democracy that we want. And it's not going to happen easy. It's not going to happen overnight. And it's not going to happen without great sacrifice and great unity and collaboration. So my thought is we have to come together as a community, as a collective community. We may not always agree on all the issues, and I don't expect us to, but we can agree that we want to have equality. We can agree that we don't want to have our oppressors on with their knee on our necks. And so we should come together as a collective community. And I'm talking about African Americans. And then we have things in common with our Latin brothers and others that we have to collaborate on, because they won't just come for one of us. They're going to come for all of us. And when they come for one of us, we have to have the mindset that they're coming for all of us. And we should work collectively to fight, and we should work collectively to do everything we can to ensure that we don't go back on our watch because of the great sacrifice of our ancestors making good trouble. We have many rights and freedoms today that, but for the grace of God, they can be gone. They can be gone tomorrow. And I like what you and John were talking about, that faith without works is dead. Yes, I believe in God, but God gives us ability to get out and work, not just wishing and praying without any action. So yes, we have to pray, but we also have to work. And now is a time of work and not giving up and not giving in. But that's what the oppressor wants us to do. They want us to feel so hopeless that we throw in the towel and say, well, we might as well quit because we're not going to win. If we had that attitude, we would still be enslaved today. And I am a free Black man, and I'm going to do everything I can to protect the freedoms of the next generation of those people coming behind us.
Well, now there you go, Gerald. We've got a lot of work to do. I mean, because you're on your way to Georgia. I mean, it's like the Arbery case is still ongoing. The work continues.
Add on to what Ron has said, because this isn't a point now where we need to kowtow and run away. We've got to remember that we as a people, we've been here before. We've seen this situation. I can recall when Ronald Wilson Reagan was elected, and the collective, just the collective sadness, the collective concern that the African American community had. I remember, they did all the 666 things, right? Ronald Wilson Reagan, evil policies, and all this other stuff that they were talking about. But I also remember this, Santino, because people forget this part of it. I also remember that President Reagan was the reluctant one who signed what? The Martin Luther King Jr. holiday into law. He's the one that did that reluctantly. He did it because the African American community and our friends got together and demanded that this be done. But the elected officials got there and they were pushing for that bill to be signed. So we've been here before. And we've got to be certain that we use the collective wisdom of our ancestors, the collective wisdom of our experiences to push forward with policies that we believe are appropriate. We cannot, and this is one of the bigger pieces in my book. We cannot going into 2025, into the next term, deal with this, what we call the anticipatory obedience. That is, that we start to simply not do things, not take actions, not stand up because we think that it's going to be against the leader of the country. Anticipatory obedience, change our behavior. We've got to be the resistance, right? We've got to resist any form of authoritarianism that we see. That's what we're walking into. We can't do that with our heads down because we need our heads up so we can see what's in front of us, Santita. That's where we are right now. That's what we're pushing forward on. And I agree wholeheartedly with what John Nichols was saying with regards to the head of the DNC. I know both former governor of Maryland, Martin O'Malley, as well as Ben Wickler out of Wisconsin, who worked with us on the Mandela Barnes when we were out there. So, yeah, there's work ahead, but our heads have got to be high, our focus has got to be straight, and our eyes have got to be on the prize of what we want to achieve, Cynthia.
Amen. And we have to get to work. Thank you for bringing up Ronald Wilson Reagan. The night he won, we were as ill at ease with him as we are with Trump now. You forget, he was to the right of Attila the Hun. He was someone who went after Black progressives in California, and he was known for that. He went after the Black Panthers. One of his opening events was in Philadelphia, Mississippi. It is famous for, and only known for being the place where they killed Goodman, Schwerner, and Cheney. They found their bodies buried in mud. They'd been beaten and killed. And they made note of it then in 1980 when he was running. They said, wow, he's going to open his campaign here. This was not even 20 years after Dr. King had been killed. They said he's got a lot of nerve going after black people this way, and he did it. And yet someone stood up to him because we were nervous. What are we going to do? Well, someone said, we got to do something. And that someone was Jesse Jackson and Marion Barry and Ron Walters and Mary Frances Berry and Bill and Camille Cosby. I can keep on going. And Benny Peloton, Laura Ross Brown, and Carolyn Kasdan, and Reverend Frank Watkins, and Reverend George Riddick. I can just keep on going down the list. And Jim Zogby. And Mabel Tang. And Abel Mabel down in Tennessee. In Georgia. We keep on going. And, of course, we had a young man who was president of the student government at Southern, who said, I want to help you. I don't have any money, but I'm going to make my way up to D.C. And I'm going to watch you run, Jesse run, and I'm going to help you run, and I'm going to go back to my school and organize people to vote. And that was Cleo Fields, who then went on to become a state senator. Well, I think he was 21. And then he went on to become a member of Congress, and now he's back in Congress again. Do not get weary. You got to fight, everybody. You can't stop. You can't stop. And if you want to ask what Dr. King would be doing today, all you have to do is look at Reverend Jesse Jackson for the past 60 years, because he's been on an assignment from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. He's doing just what Dr. King assigned him to do. Fighting for economic empowerment, fighting for public education, inspiring us, being with the least of these, setting the captive free. Look at that ministry. It's a continuation of it. And let us pay homage to it while he's still here. And now you pick up the baton. He's still pushing from a wheelchair. Now, what are you going to do while you're on your feet? Closing thoughts on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson.
You got a friend in Jesus. You got a friend in Jesus. Yes, you do.
Coming up, we'll have.
I'm going to have to listen to that on my way to church today. Okay, my handsome gents, I'm going to get some closing thoughts from you, about a little more than a minute apiece. Is that okay? Are they there?
That works for me.
Okay, all right.
That sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay, now what time are you all available this afternoon? Just let me know. Would 3 o'clock work for anybody?
Yeah, I could do 3.
Okay, great.
Yeah, 3 should be good.
Okay, great. Because I just really want to look at the. Oh gosh, there's so much going on. I'm trying to get people. You know what? There's a one of your colleagues. What is his name? Gene Wu.
Yeah.
He gave one heck of an interview on a show.
Gene's a friend of mine. I can get Gene on your show.
Please, I need him on the show.
Okay.
He gave a heck of an interview in which he was talking about what the Asian community owes Black people.
Yes.
And I think it's important for people to hear that. One of the things that we saw during the campaign, I remember I just finished my spring semester at Howard, and I was on my way to California to be with my parents as the campaign was winding down in '84. And I called my mother one day, and she sounded exhilarated. I said, "Hey, how did everything go?" She said, "You will not believe this. I've gotten out here."
Sweating.
Oh, not me. I'm wearing my blanket. She said, "Do you know who's running this campaign out here?" I said, "Who?" She said, the Asian community. See, what people don't realize is that Asians are like Black people. Maybe it's because we're the readily identifiable other. They flip between being very progressive and going to the right. But when they're progressive, they're untouchable, y'all.
That's right.
We got to California. They were registering people. They were not playing. Because they remember that concentration camp experience now. They will tell you about how they were treated when they were building the railroads in the South. They're going to tell you that. So, we have to understand that while we have seen anti-Black racism with people of color all over the world, there is also another side to that. And we need to honor that. We need to understand what it is. So, I want Gene Wu on the show because I saw him and I was so moved because he reminded me of so many people. Some people, I've known some wonderful, wonderful people. I've known them.
Santina, do you want me to see if he can join us at 3 today, or?
You know what? I'd like to have, if he can join us at 3, that would be great. But I would want to change. No. Listen, I would want to change the dialogue to center it around coalition building. If we can get him today.
Okay. When we get off the air, I'm going to reach out to him and I'll let you know shortly.
Yeah. It can be 3 or it can be 5.
Okay.
I've just got to talk. Okay, please.
Because Central Time. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because what I want to do, because I think it's important that people know.
Yeah.
Know that part. Because I said, because I'm tired of the bashing that has become that's been popularized in our community. I'm like, no, y'all, wait a minute, because I've met some people. Because I've known enough Toms in my life to appreciate a real progressive. Okay.
That's right. Oh yeah.
Stand by.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So I got a minute for each of you. Okay.
Okay.
Starting with you, Ron. Okay.
2, 1, you're live.
Hey, everybody. Santita Jackson, AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I will be there from 6 to 8 and on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Check out all of our shows. Hey, Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, I've got just under a minute for you. What's on your mind? Ron Reynolds? Well, then let me pivot over to Attorney Daryl Jones. Oh, okay. Go on. Ron, I got...
Service. MLK Day of Action. It is time for us to step up. All of us should channel our Dr. King spirit of being a freedom fighter, speaking truth to power. And you don't need a title. You don't have to be a reverend. You don't have to be an elected official. You just use whatever God gave you, whatever gifts he gave you to give back, to pay it forward. The time is now. We can't wait for tomorrow. We have to have the attitude, if it is to be, it's up to me.
Amen. You are the change you're waiting for. Attorney Daryl Jones, 12 noon, WOL, every Tuesday. Please check him out with Attorney Barbara Arnwine. You're on your way to Brunswick, Georgia, really keeping that Arbery case alive. What's on your mind today? Under a minute.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Santita, and thank you, Representative Reynolds, for all you do. This King Day, I tell you, as Representative Reynolds should say, we've got to be certain that we just not go out and celebrate the King Day with a breakfast or a lunch or a dinner. Don't just feed the hunger that you have in your belly, but also, feed that soul to strengthen yourself for the fight that we have that's coming up. Let's be certain that we stand with the King dream of keeping hope alive, the King dream of having the global community as a place of hope. Let's be certain that we get involved and stay in that fight.
Amen to that. And remember, Dr. King dreamed, but he was awake. He was woke. You wake up. Get out there and do the work. On behalf of Jeremy Geiger and I, and of course, Reverend Jesse Jackson, who's listening today, I am Santita Jackson. Remember, keep hope alive, everybody. God bless you.
With Reverend Jesse Jackson. Okay. For more information on upcoming shows and guests, please visit our website at www.keephopealiveradio.com.
Oh, yeah. Please, Ron. His interview, I was transfixed. And I was so happy. So happy. Love it.
Daryl Jones is on.
Oh, Daryl?
Yes.
Honey, sending you much, 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 much love. So, you know what? I'm going to get right back to you because I need you to talk about DC and what's happening there. And I also need a preview of Brunswick because people need to know that case is still alive. And I need you to speak to prosecutorial misconduct, please.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
and what we can do when there's prosecutorial misconduct, because we can do something. We can fight that. But I mean, because I want you to lay out the case of what this woman did, Daryl.
Okay.
I mean, we can't forget what this woman did. What she did. We can't. Oh my gosh. You tell somebody to go home and wash off the evidence? Are you for real? I mean, and it makes you question the whole system, Daryl, because they're all together. I mean, I don't question it. I already know there's mess in it. But I mean, come on. Oh, Daryl, this is. I mean, you all are sitting on something. I'm telling you. 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 This is. I was so glad to. I said, oh my gosh, I couldn't wait. So yeah. So, but I'm going to call you back because if you want to participate on the conversation with Gene Wu, you're more than welcome. But with him, I want to talk about the coalition politics. Let me find that link to that that interview. His interview was out of sight. It was out of sight because he laid out chapter and verse why we need to be together and why the Asian community said every civil right you enjoy is because of Black people. He said the first thing you need to do is be grateful to them. That's the first thing. I said, okay. Well, I ain't mad at that. But he reminds me of so many of the progressive Asians that I know. They have a direct line between our freedoms. Because I'm telling you, the people who stood 10 toes down for us, it was the Asian community all over the country. Absolutely, they did. I'm telling you, they did. They did.
Yeah, I definitely want to see that interview.
Oh, I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to find it because I know I complimented this. I'm going to find it because I complimented the interviewer on it because I want to get him on my show too. Because it was a tremendous interview, and it was very clear that was the point of their interview. That was a real point that they wanted to make in that interview. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And it's something you need to see because I think it's part of the discussion we need to have because we have fallen into a lot of bashing. Love you all, everybody, of